Iron-on vinyl, or heat transfer vinyl, or HTV as it's also known, comes in lots of different types. It's a vinyl that can be applied to fabric or other materials such as wood with heat and pressure. And there are a lot more different types, colours and patterns than I've shown here. Unlike other vinyls, it comes on a clear carrier sheet. It has a shiny side and a dull side. The dull side is the glue side, which needs heat to be activated. These are some of the brands that people recommend. Whichever brand you choose, if you're going to make garments for babies or children, you're probably going to want to make sure that it has been certified. These are some of the certification marks that you would be looking for. You're going to need a cutting machine. You can use any of the Cricut machines depending on the size of your project, a weeding tool, some scissors, some iron-on vinyl or heat transfer vinyl, a craft blank or a garment, a tape measure, a lint roller, some parchment paper, a green standard mat, a hard surface but not an ironing board, an iron and a towel, or if you have them, a heat press and a heat pad, and a design. So you're going to need to start off in Design Space to prepare your design. Once you've opened up Design Space, go up to the top right corner and select New Project. Then go to the panel on the left and click on Images. Click on Browse All Images. If, like me, you don't have a Cricut Access subscription, you'll want to go to the panel on the left in the Filters and tick the Free box. And it's also helpful to go to Operation Type and click on Cut Only. This will give you an image that can be cut. And then select an image that you'd like to use. Once you've found your image, go to the bottom right of the screen and click Add to Canvas. You're going to want to resize your image, and it helps to go to your garment with a tape measure and measure up the space where you would like it to go. Annoyingly, I managed to splash some fat on this new t-shirt, so I want my design to cover them up. So I'm going to place it around here. And it helps to use a tape measure to get an idea of the size of the image that you want. So I'm going to need my image to be around 6.5 inches by a maximum of 6 inches. You can also get a template by going to the left side of the canvas and clicking on Templates, and then putting t-shirt into the search bar. Choose the style of t-shirt that best matches your garment and click on it to add it to your canvas. You can also change the type and size of your template to match your garment. Place your image inside the template and then move it around and resize it to see how it looks. You can also get rid of the grid by going to the top left of the canvas between the two zeros and clicking there until the grid disappears. And you can change the colour of your template to match the colour of your garment. To do this, go to the bottom of the right panel and click on the box that says T-shirt, and you'll see a colour box appear at the top of the screen, and you can choose the colour that best matches your garment. There's also an advanced option if you'd like to get a better match. And you might want to change the colour of the layers in your design to match the vinyl that you're going to be using. On the right side of your canvas, you'll see the layers in your design, and you can click on one at a time and then change the colour of it. If you want to remove your template, click the eye next to the box on the bottom of the right panel. If you want the size of your design to be more accurate, then you can go up to the top panel and use the size boxes there. I wanted my design to be 6.5 inches wide, and I want to keep the height width proportions of this design, so I'm going to lock the box before I put in the measurement. Pulling the layers apart can help you to decide which type of HTV or iron-on you want to use for each layer. I want to use a copper coloured glitter iron-on for the head and the body, and an espresso foil iron-on for the face and the stripes, and a white everyday iron-on for the wings. If your design has layers that sit on top of each other, you would want everyday iron-on on the bottom and glitter on the top. Once you're happy with your colours and your size, you can hit the Make It button and choose your mat. I recommend cutting 2 copies of your project so that you can use one to practice on and one for your garment. I also recommend placing your design elements at the bottom of your mat so that once it's cut, you can quickly check to see that it's cut through okay before you unload. If it hasn't, then you can press start and do another cut. I'm using separate pieces of vinyl for each piece, but you could of course place them next to each other and cut them from one piece of vinyl. As I'm using 3 different types of iron-on vinyl, I'm leaving them on the separate mats rather than putting them together on one mat. You can also rotate your designs for a better fit on your mat if you need to. And you must remember to mirror your mats. This is because you're going to put your iron-on or HTV shiny side down on the mat with the glue up. This is the opposite to what you would do with normal vinyl. If you did forget to mirror it, you would end up with a back to front design. If it's a symmetrical design, this wouldn't matter, but not many designs are, so it's best to always do the mirror on anyway. Once you're happy with your design elements on your mat, you can hit the continue button. Next, you're going to need to choose your material, and you'll need to do this before you put each mat through the machine. For my first mat, I need to use my everyday iron-on, and there's a helpful reminder to make sure mirror is turned on and that you place your iron-on vinyl shiny side down on your mat. You'll need to place your pieces of vinyl in the same position on your mat as you did in Design Space. And I find using a brayer is a really helpful way to make sure that it's stuck firmly to the mat. Then you can place your mat underneath the 2 white guides in your machine, press the load button and then start and let your machine do its magic. Once it's finished, check it's cut through okay and then unload. Remove your material from the mat and replace it with the vinyl you want for your second mat. Design Space will ask you to choose your material for the second mat. If you haven't got it as a favourite, browse all materials and type in the name. You will need to spell it correctly to find it in the list. Then press done and load your mat into your machine and press start when it's ready. When your machine has finished cutting, check it's cut through okay, unload and prepare your final mat. If you need to remind yourself of where to place your vinyl on the mat, you can click on your mat and then underneath it edit, and you'll get a picture of your mat again, and you can click on your design element and you'll get the grid back in place and you can see what size you need as well. You'll need to choose your material again for your final mat. Unload your final mat and let the machine do its cut. Once all your pieces have been cut, you're going to want to weed them. Start by hooking your weeding tool into one of the corners and then pull the vinyl off. You're going to want to remove all the pieces that aren't part of your design. It's a good idea to go slowly and take your time so as not to damage your design. Repeat with all your pieces. I'm using a non-brand glitter vinyl on this project for the first time, and I'm finding it quite tricky to weed, particularly around the bee's little feet. But I got there in the end. And don't forget any pieces that are inside the design, like here with the eyes and the mouth. Once you've weeded all your layers, you're going to need to prepare your garment. First of all, place your towel or a heat pad if you have one down onto a hard surface. I recommend doing a practice run first. I'm using an old t-shirt to practice on. It's best to practice on a material that is similar to the garment you want to put your design onto. Now you need to know what temperature to use and how long to heat your vinyl for. You can find this information in the help pages of Design Space. And you can put iron-on in the search bar and you'll be directed to lots of pages with relevant information. Scroll down the list until you find the iron-on that you're using and then click on that for the instructions. These are really helpful guides for any iron-on project. They give you all the information that you need, and if you scroll on down further you'll see the information about temperature and timings. If you have a heat press, then you're going to want to press the heat guide link in the apply section. If you're using a household iron like me, then you'll find the information that you need in the green writing in the box. These are Cricut recommendations for everyday iron-on. If you scroll back up on the left, you'll see a list of other types of iron-on, and you can select from there, or you can put the actual name into the search bar. Settings may vary between different types of vinyl, so it's worth checking these instructions. For example, foil iron-on needs to be on the wool setting. You're going to want to get a piece of parchment paper ready. I find the white baking paper or parchment paper is the most effective. as it doesn't leave any kind of a stain behind, which I have found with brown baking paper or even the Teflon sheet. Then I want to go over it with a lint roller to remove anything that might prevent my design from sticking to it. So for my first layer, which is the everyday iron-on, I'm going to need to set my iron to the cotton linen setting. And I'm going to need to heat up my material for 10 to 15 seconds. It can also be helpful to compile your design while your layers are still on their carrier sheets to help with the accurate positioning on your garment. Your design will need to be placed dull side down, that's the glue side, with the carrier sheet facing upwards. The carrier sheet will protect your vinyl. When you're happy with the positioning, you'll need to remove the 2 layers that you don't need anymore and leave behind the one that needs to go at the bottom. So for me, this is the wings, which are the everyday iron-on. Your carrier sheet should be sticky enough to hold your vinyl in place while you heat it. If it isn't, then you can use heat-resistant tape. Then you're going to want to place your parchment sheet, which is bigger than your iron, on top of your design to protect your garment. Cricut recommends heating everyday iron-on for 25 to 30 seconds, but as this is the first layer of 3, I'm just going to do it for 3 to 5 seconds, which should be just enough to adhere it to the garment. Cricut recommends a cool peel for everyday vinyl, so you'll need to wait for it to have cooled down before you remove the carrier sheet. Then you can place your next layer on top, and you might want to put your carrier sheet from your first layer back on top of the exposed part, if there is any, to protect it while you heat the next layer. Place your parchment sheet on top of the design again and heat for another 3 to 5 seconds. Allow it to cool and then peel off the carrier sheet. For the foil iron-on, you're going to need to change the setting on the iron to the wool setting, and then you repeat the process. You'll want to see the texture of your garment coming through the vinyl. This way you'll know that it has adhered well and should last up to 50 washes. You'll want to wait about 48 hours before washing your garment so that your vinyl sticks better, and also wash your garment inside out to avoid it coming into contact with buttons or zips that could damage your design. I was pleased with how my practice run turned out, although I did make a mistake in design space by attaching the face to the stripes. This made it difficult to position them accurately, and you can see the t-shirt through them. So what I will do is I will make that layer into 2 separate pieces and apply them separately for my next go. So I'm going to repeat the process now with my actual garment, and fingers crossed it all works out well. Let's see. So my first layer needed another few seconds after the first press. It's better to do less than more because overheating can really damage the vinyl. After applying my second layer, I decided that I really liked the design as it was and that it didn't need a third layer. So I did a final press of 20 seconds. And as my design was bigger than my iron, I needed to do this in 2 sections. To finish off, you'll need to turn your garment over and press for a full 25 seconds. I like to use the parchment paper to protect my garment because I would never leave an iron standing still on a garment when I'm ironing, so it doesn't make sense to do that now. Here's the finished product, and I really love it. I love the colour, I love the design, and it covered up my fat splashes really well, so I can wear my t-shirt again. I've got one more tip, and that is to cut up an old t-shirt and use it for practicing on. You can cut out smaller versions of your design, that way you don't waste too much vinyl and you won't waste garments. I hope you found this video really helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe. It's free and you'll be notified of new videos when they come out. I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye for now.